My name is Brandon English, and this is Antony from Antony and Cleopatra, presented in Tagalog and English, otherwise Taglish, and the language of Tagalog comes from the Philippines. I chose this piece because it is a piece about betrayal from someone you love. And this is something that I wholeheartedly related to just because when I had originally chose this piece, Angelo Quinto had just died and was killed by the police. And he was a Filipino American veteran who was killed by a law enforcement. And I thought that was such a crazy, crazy thing to happen because he served our country only to be killed by our country. And so I felt that this was a fitting piece for me to express this betrayal of being Asian American in this country and to also give myself an outlet to really feel and understand what that meant to me without having to go through it myself, but go through it through character. I did Taglish, which is Tagalog and English, because I wanted to talk about how I am both Asian and Asian American, both Filipino and Filipino American, and how I am part of this country. Therefore, I will do both languages freely within this speech. And Tagalog is one of the dialects from the Philippines. There are a lot of dialects in the Philippines. Tagalog just happens to be the one that my family speaks. And in terms of intention, my partner and myself, because I'm actually not totally fluent, we sat down and she actually mostly did most of the work, and he was helping me translate this as well. And for me, there's a rhythm to Shakespeare that I wanted to preserve that rhythm, but I also wanted to use Tagalog in a way that displayed the language in its beauty and its glory within its poeticism. And so there are certain things that I felt like were so beautiful. Like the way we say sun is araw. And in Shakespeare, when you have very open vowels, it serviced the monologue so well. You can go, oh, araw, oh, sun. And for me, I really wanted to languish in the open vowels and the poetic nature of what Tagalog can offer to Shakespeare. And that's why I was really meticulous in choosing certain words and certain passages. And I also just wanted to have accessibility to anyone who was watching. I think a good chunk of the world knows English. And I wish a good chunk of the world knew more Tagalog as well and other languages. But I wanted for anyone to see this, to be like, oh, wow, I know what this piece is about. So it was a good display of ebbs and flow, as I like to say, of going from English to Tagalog and preserving both languages and preserving both intentions while also taking poetic freedoms of expression.
Oh, araw. Ang iyong pagsikat ay hindi na makakita. Fortune at si Antony ay magpart dito. Even here do we shake hands. Welcome to this. Ang mga puso ng parang mga aso na ako'y sinundan. Kanino akong nagbigay their wishes. Do this candy melt their sweets on blossoming Caesar, at ang pine is barked that to overtop them all. Oh, itong palso na Egypt. These grave charms that break forth my wars at tinawag nilang home. Kininong dibdib ang aking korona, my chief end. Tulad na isang tamang gypsy ay mabalis at maluwag. Beguiled me to the very heart of loss. Ano? Eros. Eros.
I think I was getting emotional because I don't think I'm allowed to express that from day to day. You know, I have to continue surviving and keep moving on and be a strong person, especially within the whole Asian American monomyth of the model minority. We're not allowed to speak out. We have to be polite. We can't be angry. POC folks can never be angry. And so for me, even as a person, I don't express anger. And when I can't express anger, I express sadness. And so that's something that I think just innately lives in me. And I think it's something I feel strongly about in the world right now, and even in the piece that I just did. I think for me, what I think about is just the families, especially the folks who lost their mothers in the spa, Atlanta, Georgia, because I think about it as, you know, if I were to die in this country, I think I would like to think I go to a special place, to a good place. But I think what I'd be most worried about is my loved ones, the ones who are grieving for me, and grieving about wrongfully killed for just purely existing in this country. And that's something that happens to a lot of POC folks, to our Black brothers and sisters, to our trans brothers and sisters, and to now the Asian Americans. And for me, it's not something that's just a hot button issue. This is my reality. There's this expression in my language called loob, which means inside, or puso, which means heart. And I feel like that's how I relate to Shakespeare. There's so much heart within the language, within even the rhythm of it, that I think translates well and transcends into different cultures. And I even think Shakespeare was a bit of a hippie and a bit of a radical of his time, because he really spoke to a lot of marginalized communities in a way that I thought was very advanced. He wrote for women in a way that other writers were not writing for women. I think about Caliban, who was an islander, and how this was really how people viewed islanders in a savage way. I think it was commentary. And for me, you know, I went through the theater system in college, and it's usually a very white curriculum, but I related most to Shakespeare because I felt like, one, I was accepted in these spaces as a person of color. They allowed me to play leading men. They allowed me to play savages. They allowed me to play anything I wanted to play, because Shakespeare was very, in this modern day, is very open to all. If you enjoyed the piece that I just did and it really resonated with you, I really invite you to speak out against Asian American hate in this country. Don't just appreciate the art that we make, appreciate our lives. So what can you do? You can look up organizations to donate to. You can show up to our rallies. You can speak out against violence and hate against your family members who say racist things. So this is a call to action. This is not just a Shakespeare piece. This is a call to action. So please really look within your heart and speak out against the violence, not just for the Asian American community, but for the Black community, for the trans community, and to really, really find it in your heart to say, you are just like me, therefore let me help you.